All right.
So we're joined all the way from Mexico City, Mexico, by the Revenue Doctor, PR genius, founder of Dante Lee International. Dante Lee, we thank you so much for joining us today, fitness in your busy schedule. We got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson High School. This is our entrepreneurship class, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you again for taking some time for us.
Thank you. You're very welcome. I appreciate the invitation. Can I see the class? Can I see what the class looks like?
I can't put them on camera.
Oh, because of the the school rules and
Yeah.
stuff. Okay, cool. It would
Yeah.
be so cool
No,
to see the
they,
faces.
they are going to hand me some questions, and we'll get to their questions here shortly.
Okay.
But I do want to hear. We want to hear. You're originally from the DMV. Went to Bowie State University and graduated in just 3 years. So, and while you were in college, is when you started your first business. So, just take us through your background in that, and now you're owning all types of business entities. So, just give us a little background on how you got into entrepreneurship.
Sure. Well, let me start where you mentioned. Yes, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. I went to Bowie State University, which is an HBCU for those who
Yep.
don't know. Um, And yeah, I started my company while on campus in the computer lab. So I remember this. This was the year I graduated high school in 1999. Let's say that first. Um, so I started college September 1999. So we're talking about 25 years ago. Um, but I remember seeing a lot of people wasting time in the computer lab. We didn't have Facebook back then. We didn't have Instagram, but there were other social media networks. There was MySpace. There was one called Black Planet. There
College
was,
Club.
yes, yes. And everybody in the computer lab was wasting time on that stuff. And I was 19 years old, and I just felt like, you know what? I want to be a little more productive with my time. And believe it or not, going to an HBCU kind of opened up my mind, culturally speaking. I truthfully did not even know what an HBCU was until my first day on campus. Um, yeah, I didn't even,
Wow.
and I grew up around black people. I grew up in a black neighborhood. It's just I just didn't grow up around people talking about stuff like that. So it wasn't until I was actually enrolled and on campus in my first class, and I've kind of learned the history of what an HBCU was and why they were created in the first place. I also discovered Black Enterprise magazine in the campus library, and that was the first time I had ever seen that. Remember, Black Enterprise, that magazine has been around since the 70s.
Yeah.
I discovered it when I was 19. This is 1999, and I'm gonna be honest with you, that was the first time that the concept of a person that looks like me having a business ever came into my mind. I had
Wow.
never heard anyone talk about it. I had never seen any publication. So I literally said out loud, I remember kind of, because they had catalogs of older issues and I was going through them and I was just like, wow, a black person can own a business. I didn't know that. That concept was foreign to me. I had never thought about that. So right away, I started thinking about business and I was already minoring in business. I went to Bowie State to study computer science. I was minoring in business. But back then, when you study business, I'm not sure if it's the same now, but if you're studying business in school, they're not teaching you entrepreneurship. They're teaching you how to run someone else's company.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's the same. I mean, maybe I'm sure they've introduced some type of entrepreneurship course,
Well,
but what?
a friend of this class is the director
Mhm.
of entrepreneurship at Jackson State,
Okay,
right down the road. Our great HBCU right down the road here. It's our homecoming week. But yeah, you are correct. But the entrepreneurship departments are just now starting to pop up at these business schools.
amazing. Yeah. So back then it wasn't there yet. But I was very motivated by these articles I was reading in Black Enterprise magazine, and I encourage people to read Black Enterprise to this day. I mean, read Wall Street Journal too. Don't get me wrong. Read Bloomberg, read Fortune, read Inc., all of the business publications out there, but also read the one major publication that's specifically for people of color who are interested in entrepreneurship and investing and just financial literacy, period. And that's Black Enterprise. That was where I got all my motivation from. So I started experimenting with ideas. And I ended up, the internet was new back then. The internet was like 4 years old back then. A lot of people, that
Yep.
might fascinate a lot of people. A lot of people think the internet always existed. But no, I remember when the internet first came out, and I remember when Google first was created. And so I just started experimenting with some ideas, which is ultimately what you should do as an aspiring entrepreneur. And I came across this idea that I wanted to create this news platform to kind of tell positive stories about Black people and other people of color. Because especially back then, if you turned on the news, you saw somebody Black on TV, honestly, it was going to be something negative. It wasn't going to be very positive. Um, so I started seeing that there was positive news to report, just nobody was really reporting it. So I created what is now today blacknews.com. 25 years later, I'm still running the same site. It's called blacknews.com. And honestly, it's just about telling stories about people of African American descent, even African descent sometimes. Uh, these are not typically the same stories you're going to find on CNN. They're not typically the same stories you're going to find on, excuse me, on MSNBC or other news platforms. Um, and the revenue model there, because you got to have a revenue model, right? Unless you're running a nonprofit. Even if you're running a nonprofit, you still need a revenue model because you're going to need revenue. You're going to need some type of, you know, income. The revenue model was to sell ad space, which is typical for websites, right? I mean, that's typically how a website, a magazine, or even a TV station works. You provide the content, and then you have to go to these advertisers and say, hey, I've got this many viewers or this many visitors or this many listeners if it's a radio station, and they'll pay you. And that was how it all started. It started with just that, you know.
Yeah, and it's grown to a multitude of web platforms now. So black business, black jobs, black woman. Um, uh, that's just off the top of my head. So you have
Mhm.
several web entities now that are in the parent company of the Dante Lee International.
That is correct. So blackbusiness.com, blackwoman.com, that's woman singular. If you put plural, it's going to take you to a porn site, so be careful with that. Blackwoman.com. Blackjobs.com. Yeah, we're literally working with employers who are interested in hiring more diverse talent. Um, I've even tapped into the Latino space. So you mentioned this. I live in Mexico. I've been here about 10 years now. I do speak fluent Spanish. So I've created several initiatives as well that target the Latino community because basically, whatever the Black community is experiencing in the US, the Latino community is pretty much experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I have a site called HispanicJobs.com. And along the way, all of this happened gradually. None of this happened like all at the same time. I just slowly expanded my portfolio. The idea was to expand my portfolio of website offerings that would solve problems for uh, both Blacks and Latinos. And at the same time, it would allow me to, create a source of income for myself. Um,
Yeah.
and then just recently with my daughter and I, we've launched a real estate company. And it all falls under the same umbrella. So we're now in four different industries. We're in marketing, well, actually it would be advertising, PR, public relations, recruiting, diversity recruiting, and now real estate. Now,
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the PR marketing, and we'll get to the real estate. But the PR
okay.
marketing, you've worked with some of the largest companies in the world. You've worked with
Hmm.
McDonald's, you've worked with Amazon, you've worked with Apple, really helping put forth the way things are marketed. Because I say all the time, you can have a great idea, you can be a great business person, you can be great with the money, you can have great customer service, but if you can't sell it, you're not going to make any money. And that's where people like you come into play, especially for these young entrepreneurs to find a way to market themselves. So, talk a little bit about the way that you help entrepreneurs market themselves, because I think that's a way some of them really struggle.
Okay, very good question. So when I launched blacknews.com, the site actually became very popular very quickly because there just wasn't a whole lot of sites like that
Yeah.
at the time. Now there's tons of blogs and websites and TMZ this and just world hip hop. I mean there's tons of content. But back then it was rare to see that. Uh, So what happened was people started sending me their stories. That people started approaching me, asking me if I could cover their story, and I was happily doing so. But then I realized, hey, you know what? I can I can launch a whole service here, not just to run your story, but to also send your story to all of the Black newspapers, magazines, blogs, TV, and radio stations. So most people don't know this, but there are newspapers in just about every city that focus on what Black people are doing in that particular area.
Yeah, we have one in
Um,
Jackson.
you have one in Jacksonville. There you go. And it's the same thing with magazines. There are local magazines. I mean, we all know. I mean, I don't know if today's generation knows about Jet and Ebony magazine and Essence. Um, but there's other magazines that are smaller that have local circulation. So I created this service called blackpr.com that basically would help Black entrepreneurs, other Black entrepreneurs, as well as Black nonprofits or anybody. I mean, not all of my clients were Black because sometimes you have non-Black organizations that want to target the Black audience.
Yep,
Uh,
there you
so,
go.
so, so the idea is so, and I don't know if your class knows this, but Black people spend more than $1 trillion a year as a demographic, as a consumer demographic. We spend more than $1 trillion a year. So
Wow.
if you ever feel like you're being targeted by an advertiser, it's true, you are. Because they're trying to get the trillion, you know, a little piece of the $1 trillion that we spend. And this is why platforms like BET work so well. So BET, you know, we all know is a channel that's been around for more than 30 years. It's content for and about mostly African Americans. When you watch the commercials on BET, you will see whether it's Sprite or Coca-Cola or Disneyland or whoever it is, you will see that, and they're not hiding this, it's not a secret. They're targeting Black people. They're saying, hey, we want to reach more uh, Black people to be buying into what we're selling. Uh, so anyways, I say all that to say that, yeah, I created blackpr.com. That was the idea. That took off as well, really well. I had a lot of good success. It wasn't like overnight success, but I was just really paying attention, you know, to the voids. And there were a lot of voids back then. There were a lot of opportunities, and there still are a lot of opportunities. Um, but things are a lot more saturated now. So starting a new business can be a little more difficult, but definitely not impossible.
Yeah, and I cannot stress that enough. And I talk about this all the time with all of my guests, and these guys get so mad at me. I've actually got all young men in here with me today.
Okay.
But these guys get so mad and so nervous when I make a present. But marketing and
Mm,
speaking, selling is such an important part of business. It just cannot be overstated. You don't have to be an all A student, but if you can market and sell things, it is amazing how much more successful you can be, even as just an employee. I mean,
yeah,
employers want to hire people that think like entrepreneurs all the time. So even if you don't want to take that financial risk, you can be a awesome employee by thinking like an entrepreneur. And if you're going to
yeah,
be an entrepreneur, you've got to be able to present what you're selling. Now, me and you are obviously comfortable speaking in front of thousands of people. You don't have to be that comfortable, but you've got to be comfortable speaking and be confident knowing what you have is the best.
very true. And I'm gonna tell you, Greg, I wasn't always comfortable speaking to people. And even doing calls like this, uh, that's something you grow into. So my advice to anyone who feels uncomfortable, my suggestion to you is to get comfortable, because that's the nature of business. I mean, yeah, you can't be running a successful business in hiding. You're going to need to be visible. A lot of times, you as the founder of your company, you are the face of the company, and a lot of times people want to do business with you because of you. So being the face and getting used to being able to talk to large audiences and just not being shy, uh, that helps a lot to your bottom line. That's very, very pivotal. I have to admit, even just recently, I would say within the last year, I started doing a lot more videos on social media, and I wasn't
Yeah.
comfortable with that at all, at all. Did not like it at all. But I can tell you I've been doing that. In my videos, I don't get a whole lot of views in my videos. I mean, I did one video the other day that got 70,000 views. It was talking about, you know, how I'm selling real estate here in Mexico. But I mean, on average, my videos are getting anywhere from 1 to 5,000 views, which is still a lot. Because I mean, just imagine hosting an event and 1 to 5,000 people show up. You know, that's a lot of people in the room. Um, but I can tell you that more than anything, it has helped to generate more clients, more credibility. Um, I mean, I'm 25 years in this game now, as far as for what I do. I have 1.2 million followers on social media. Um, I've had to ask myself the question, am I going to get another 25 years out of this business? Because not all businesses last forever. I mean, a business can last for 20 years and then die. I mean, this happened to Blockbuster Video. This happened to Circuit City. I don't know if your class remembers these brands, but I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of big businesses that were around. I mean, AOL, that right? America Online, which was like the major company that got all of us using the internet. They actually don't exist anymore, you know?
that's
And
true.
yeah. So it's about, it's about being willing to adapt. It's about being willing to learn the newest trends. And right now, video is big and speaking is big and just having a voice is big and powerful. You want to keep yourself relevant because just as easy as you found success in business, you can lose that. I see entrepreneurs all the time that used to be successful that aren't even on the map anymore. So you want to make sure that you're, doing whatever is necessary to keep your business afloat. Because you don't just want, nobody wants to run a business for a couple of years. You want it to, and then you got to, maybe go back and get a job. There's nothing wrong with that if you have to do that. I mean, you should be humble about whatever you got to do. But just keep in mind that you want to do what's necessary and do what nobody else is doing. And honestly, if you feel uncomfortable about doing something when it comes to business, that's probably a sign that you should be doing it. Like if it's difficult for you, if it's something that's requiring you to adjust to, then that's probably a sign that yeah, you need to go ahead and do that and get involved, or at least think about it and consider it.
Yeah, and now one thing, and you did mention it, that you're really big on right now, and your daughter's gotten involved with you. There's been all kind of news stories about it. Is you're big into real estate investing,
Yes.
in multiple countries. You're doing it in Mexico, United States. You've done some things in the Philippines, and I hear
Yep.
kids all the time say they want to get into real estate, but they don't have any idea. They just think it's what you see on Fixer Upper or whatever these reality shows are. But there is a lot of money to be made, and there was a barrier for Black people to get into real estate for decades. And
Yeah.
I was interviewed in a magazine last year, where I talked about resources and availability in rural communities. There's never been
Hmm.
a better time if somebody wants to be a hustler and get into this. Real estate business is something you don't need a college degree. You just got to have business savvy and got to know how to reach your market. So just talk a little bit about what all you guys are doing. And like I said, you've even gotten your children involved in it.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, real estate is one of the largest wealth creators in the country. It's like the stock market, and then there's like real estate. And it's true. I mean, listen, college, how old are the students in your class, Greg?
Actually, everybody here with me is in 10th grade.
Everybody's 10th grade. So everybody was what, 16 years old?
Yeah, it's 15, 16, 17 in that range.
15, 16, 17 years old. Okay. So at this point, you guys are already thinking about college and what's going to be your career. And if you're not thinking about that, you should be thinking about that.
Mhm.
And listen, college is not for everybody. And college is a lot more expensive than it used to be. I'm gonna be honest, when I went to college, the whole thing cost $9,000. The whole thing. It was
Yep.
$9,000. Uh, Nowadays, college is going to cost you minimum $100,000, and I know people paying even more than that, depending on which school you go to. Uh, College is an option to consider, but it doesn't have to be your only option because, as you just mentioned, Greg, there are careers such as real estate where you don't need a college degree. All you have to do is take a couple of courses, take a test. Now you're a real estate agent. And I can tell you that there are always real estate transactions happening, and there will always be real estate transactions happening. People are constantly buying and selling homes. As a real estate agent, you can easily earn anywhere from 4 to 6% commission on the value of the home. So just for an example, in the state of California, the average house is being sold for anywhere from 900,000 to $1 million. That's just what it is in California. And I'm sure it's like that in other states. So if you facilitated that transaction, um, you can easily make anywhere from 40 to $60,000 just like that. Now, I'm not saying this to make it sound easy. I'm not saying that you ain't got to do nothing in life, just become an agent and you get these big commissions. Obviously, when you become an agent, you're going to have to be good at marketing, generating leads, making relationships with people, but it's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to do. Um, so it's definitely something to think about. And here's the other thing. Real estate is more than just being a real estate agent. Um, you can actually, so I don't know, am I allowed to mention to your class my Facebook page?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Those of you who are on Facebook, I want you to go to my page, facebook.com/Dante Lee, Dantelee. I literally just posted a story last night about a Black woman. I think she's 34 years old. She was from Houston, Texas. She realized that in Detroit, Michigan, that she could buy these rundown properties for $1,800 or $2,000. So she moved there. She uprooted from Houston, moved to Detroit, and she's literally there buying up properties for $2,000 or less. To my understanding, she already has 8 properties. She's flipping these homes, right? Fixing them up, reselling them for 100,000, anywhere from 100,000 to $300,000. Now, there are a lot of people doing that. That's very common. These are called real estate investors. And there are a lot of abandoned homes. There are a lot of homes in foreclosure. There are a lot of homes in pre-foreclosure, homes in bankruptcy, homes in tax liens. And yeah, there are homes owned by the certain cities as well. And they will literally give you these homes for a little bit of nothing. You come in with your resources, fix up the home and resell it for a huge profit. So that's 2 things. So I just mentioned real estate agent, and you can also be a real estate investor. Now, here's another thing that we're training real estate professionals to be, and this is something that you can do fairly easily. You can also become a licensed mortgage loan officer. Again, all of these careers that you mentioned, Greg, you do not have to go to college. You can become a licensed mortgage loan officer in all 50 states. That's one of the programs that we have,
Yep.
where you're basically helping people to get the financing for their home. So I don't care whether it's a good economy or bad economy, there are always people, as I mentioned before, who are buying and selling homes. There are always people who are looking to buy a home. There's people who are looking to refinance a home. As a mortgage loan officer, you get paid a commission if you're able to help someone get the financing, working with the Federal Credit Union. And that's something that we teach real estate agents, particularly real estate agents of color, because there's always a gap when it comes to the experience that Black people are having, and unfortunately the experience that white people are having in the country. So if you look at home ownership, you're going to see that 40% of Black people own their homes versus almost 80% of white. And that's just what it is. And that gap there's a wealth gap. And even in the real estate industry, I mean, I think the average Black real estate agent is earning half with the average white real estate agents. So anyways, I say all this to say that, don't be discouraged by the information. Just understand that you may have to work a little bit harder or smarter to be successful. So yeah, you can be a mortgage loan officer. It is now legal to double dip on the same real estate transaction. So you can actually be the
Yeah.
real estate agent and the mortgage loan officer and get 2 commissions for every sale that you're able to generate. So imagine, pursuing a career in real estate and being successful in that. And every time you close a deal, you get a check for like, $50,000 to $70,000. I mean, this is really happening. People are actually closing deals like this. And guess what? It doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, I think you got to be 18. Maybe you have to be 18.
State of Mississippi, you got to be 18, and it's a
Okay.
60-hour course. You pass
Okay.
that course, then pass the state license exam. So yeah, you're passing 2 tests, and you get sponsored by a broker, and you're rocking and rolling.
So imagine that you turn 18, you take this course, you be done with it 2 or 3 weeks. You take the test, you're a real estate agent. Now you have, and as a real estate agent, you're an entrepreneur. You have your
Absolutely.
own business. Now you work your own schedule, flexible. And you go out, you make your connections, you establish yourself as a trusted resource, and you start making money. And I know that your class, because I've seen this myself on TikTok, I know that there are people in your class who have seen successful young people that look just like them doing this on TikTok. So it's very, very possible.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it is definitely possible. Well,
Hmm.
and I just think that's so cool you're doing. I actually grew up, my mother's a realtor, so I learned a little bit about it
Oh,
growing up.
cool.
And you
Nice.
mentioned the double dip. She always talked about I try to sell my listings. So that way she could get the double commission. So yeah, you can get the double commission as a list and sell as well, where you're representing the buyer and the seller. So being able to do things like small things like that just can create all kind of income for yourself.
Yeah, truthfully, I'd rather see someone pursuing a career like that. And there are other industries, by the way. I'm not biased to real estate just because I'm into real estate. I mean, there's other options out there. So, it's encouraged to, it's important to pursue what you're passionate about. But I will say this, um, you can pursue a career like that, and I would encourage you to pursue a career like that versus going to college if you're not college material, because not all of us are college material. Let's just be honest. And not all of us want to go to college. Not all of us can afford to go to college. Remember, they'll give you a student loan to go to college, and then you spend the rest of your life paying it back. Yeah, exactly. And nowadays, for what college costs, I always kind of tell young people, you can buy a house for that much money. You can start a business for that
Yeah.
much money. I mean, going to college and getting a college degree doesn't guarantee you anything. I know a lot of unemployed college students. In fact, I published a story recently on one of my sites about this woman who has 3 degrees, including a doctorate degree, and she can't find a job.
Yeah, I
I'm
just
not
saw
just
that one.
you saw
Yeah,
that?
it was
Okay,
yeah, it was she's it said she's 35 years old. Yeah. Doctorate degree, $250,000 in student loans. I've been looking for a job for 4 years.
exactly. Yeah. So my thing is, listen, if you're 15, 16, 17 years old, you're thinking about your career, I want you guys to start researching your options. Start reading. There's an expression, it sounds kind of corny, but readers are leaders. Um, I talk to and train a lot of entrepreneurs, right? And the first question I always ask them is, what are you reading? And you know what they say? What do you mean? And I say, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, what are you reading? Are you reading Wall Street Journal? Are you reading Bloomberg? Are you reading Fortune? Or are you wasting all your time on TikTok? Are you wasting all your time on YouTube? There's a lot of podcasts out there, entertainment, the Breakfast Club. That stuff is fine, but just keep that stuff in perspective. Keep that stuff balanced because there's a lot of business material out there. There are a lot of people on TikTok that are giving away free and great information about how to be a successful entrepreneur. And I've seen this on TikTok, I've seen this on YouTube. There are business podcasts out there. But more than anything, there's books out there. I mean, like, ask yourself this question: how much do I invest a month or every 6 months or a year in books? I mean, when's the last time you've been to a Barnes and Noble store and didn't go straight to the anime section? Like, go to the business section. There's business books. One thing I've learned, Greg, about successful people in business is that they have no problem sharing all their secrets. All of them write books, and all of them will give the whole game away for free. But very few people actually take the time to read their books.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. I say that all the time, with this in this social media generation, I like celebrities too. And I'm a big sports fan. I like following athletes and all that's fine. But there's so many great business people posting about this stuff, just small encouraging things every day. Following you has been very beneficial to me because I've gotten to read about people with great business ideas, and a lot of them have spoken in this class or are going to speak in this class. So finding things that are positive that can help direct your business life are just so important. And I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, readers are leaders. Just keep that in your mind. Speaking to your students, readers are leaders. It doesn't mean that you need to like read a book a day. I'm not saying, just find some reading material, or find these podcasts about business and get into the habit of really like just uh, receiving and constantly digesting business information, even if you don't learn anything new from this material, because it could be that a person has good instincts, right? and has a lot of knowledge already. And maybe you feel like, "Ah, I'm not really learning anything." But guess what? The reinforcement helps, not to mention the motivation. Like whether you realize it consciously or subconsciously, when you are talking to successful people or you're partaking of information that's coming from successful information, this motivates you, this empowers you. And that has a lot to do as well with how successful you can be as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Well, I got questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I
Sure,
can. But I really
sure.
like these. But also, I mentioned they're all in 10th grade, but also as part of this class, they've all come up with their own business concepts.
Oh,
Some of
good,
them are going to actually pursue them. Some of them aren't, but it's just for project's sake. But all of them are at least thinking like entrepreneurs right now. This first one
good.
is to David Smith. He's a member of our band. Him and another student in this class are working on a project together to start a gaming company. But he asked, what is the biggest obstacle you've had to face in all of your years of being an entrepreneur?
The biggest obstacle is that when there's a problem, it's not like a job, right? When you have a job and there's a problem, at the end of your shift, you go home and you let your boss figure that out. As an entrepreneur, you got to figure it out. So, like right now, I'll just be honest with you guys. You know what? Things are slow right now. I'm in I have multiple businesses as we've stated, four different industries. And things are slow right now. And I personally think it has a lot to do with just people being distracted with or even nervous about what's going to happen with the upcoming election, right? Uh, but guess what? I still got to pay bills. I still got to generate income. I still got to do payroll. So the most difficult thing that I've always encountered with business is finding a way, no matter what, to create revenue. And sometimes that can be stressful, but revenue is always being generated somewhere, whether it's with you or whether it's somebody else. So trying to be creative and skillful in my thinking to know that, okay, I need to be moving in this direction. I need to be doing a little bit more of this. I need to be doing a little more of that. Or, hey, I need to run promo, run some discounts, or do a video or whatever it may be. And sometimes you have to do everything and just see what happens. But yeah, I mean, being an entrepreneur, that's something that, you're just always going to experience.
Absolutely. This is Tyler Myers. He's one of our football players here. And he
Okay.
asked, what inspired you to start so many different types of businesses?
Tyler, that's a good question. Um, I learned early on that you don't want to just have one business. You don't want to just be in one industry because at one point or another, uh, that industry or any particular industry will be affected by economical circumstances. It's just the nature of business. So I've learned to have as much as you can multiple streams of income in different sectors, in different sectors. That way, when you're in a recession and they say, "Hey, the travel industry is down right now," if that's all you got, then you're going to be in trouble. But if you say, "Well, good thing I got this over here too, and I'll just survive off of this until the travel industry picks up." So I always encourage young aspiring entrepreneurs, don't just go for one sector. Try to expand your portfolio as much as you can. And don't also, I'll share this, don't get too caught up into a particular industry that you're passionate about. Uh, I highly recommend that you expand your horizons, explore what else exists. And this is why it's important to be reading, because when you're reading, you get introduced to new ideas. I have to be honest with you, me getting introduced to real estate was partly just me always doing research and just realizing, I need to find my way into real estate. Because one thing I love about real estate does well no matter what the economy is. Down
Oh,
economy,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. There's always because in a down economy, guess what? Unfortunately, people are losing their homes. Guess what they got to do? They got to sell their homes. Or in a down economy, people have to refinance their mortgage payments. In a good economy, people are buying homes. So either way, you win in that particular industry. But just don't be so attached or emotionally attached to any one idea or any one industry. Try to be as flexible as you possibly can.
I got time for two more. This is Edward
Okay.
Flowers. He's a member of our
Okay.
band. Him and his uncle are running an HVAC company here in the area.
Mm.
So he's already getting some entrepreneurial experience. And he asked, how do you know that the benefits are always going to outweigh the cost?
They don't. The benefits don't always outweigh the cost. Listen, guys, first of all, let me say this. Running an HVAC company is genius. That's smart. And I'm gonna tell you why.
Especially in Mississippi.
Because in Mississippi, yeah, listen, there's a lot of quote unquote old-fashioned businesses like HVAC that a lot of people are just not paying attention to. I mean, there are some really good business ideas that people, I don't know if it's because of pride, but they just not interested, right? HVAC is one of them. I've never seen an HVAC business not do well. I've never seen a carpet cleaning business not do well. I've never seen an auto detailing business not do well. I've never seen a plumbing company not do well. But yet these are things that people don't really want to do because they kind of feel like it's beneath them, or maybe they feel like, oh, this is going to require too much physical work. But no, those are great industries to be in. But as far as the benefits outweighing the cost, I mean, listen, it's being an entrepreneur is a job in and of itself. And you're going to have moments where you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to have moments where it's going to be challenging. But that's the norm. That's the norm. Um, so I would say that on any level, in my personal opinion, being an entrepreneur is going to be rewarding, but it is going to have its challenges, and you just have to learn how to work through them. That's all.
Big time. All right. The last one I got, this is Herbert Carmichael. He's also working with Tadavian as far as starting the gaming. But he asked, did you ever think when you were growing up and when you were in college in Maryland that your businesses would take off to this extent?
Uh, I was hoping that it would take off to this extent. I'm gonna be honest with you though, Herbert. You are not going to get a whole lot of support from friends and family. So you got to learn how to have thick skin, and you also got to learn how to just keep moving forward no matter what. Um, I believed in my business early because I started making money early, but I wasn't making a whole lot of money. I was just making a little bit of, for a college student, I don't know. I might have been making $500 a month when I first started out, maybe $400 a month. For a college student that had just started a business, that was very encouraging for me. But I'm gonna be honest with you, my parents meant well, but they didn't really believe in my ideas. My friends, they were making fun of me. I mean, I'm in the computer lab, building a company, and they're over here fooling around on social media. Uh, on top of that, I specifically remember this. This is interesting. I was in college, and I think my freshman year, I had like a 4.0 GPA. Next year, the sophomore year, my GPA dropped down to a 3.4. So I'm still doing good. But now my professors and the deans, they're all concerned. So they pulled me to the side. And I'm not going to lie to you. They literally told me, hey, you should focus less on that business that you're trying to build and focus more on your degree. And I'm like, well, I have a 3.4 GPA. I'm still passing. I said, on top of that, I said, this degree doesn't guarantee me no job. And this business is growing. I'm actually making money from this and I see growth from it. Um, so I say all that to say that yes, I always had the confidence, but I mean, your confidence will be tested because there's going to be people who simply do not see your vision. And I would almost, I actually over the years developed this mindset of I don't even really share with people what my vision is because it can kind of mess with your psyche a little bit and your confidence a little bit. So I developed this whole idea to just kind of move in silence when it comes to business. And believe me, I fail a lot. Let me say that to you guys. I fail a lot. I experiment with a lot of ideas that don't work, and I have failed a lot more than I have actually succeeded. And guess what? That is 100% normal. Everybody talks about Michael Jordan, for example, right? He's the best basketball player in the world. Okay. And that can be argued because some people feel like Kobe is and some people feel like LeBron. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. But here's the thing about Michael Jordan. He was the best basketball player of his era. But here's what's interesting. Michael Jordan, if I'm correct, he played for 15 years. Is that right, Greg? My numbers
Something like
right?
that. Yeah. I think his career started in 84 or 5, and then he played until 98. So, yeah, something like that.
Okay. How many championships did he win?
6.
Okay. So how many championships did he not win?
9 or 10.
Exactly. So he lost more than he won, but yet he still goes down as the best. And I love using that illustration because that is exactly how entrepreneurship is. Honestly, I would say for every 10 ideas, because I still come up with ideas. I still like to create new things and pursue new ideas. But honestly, for every 10 ideas that I come up with, maybe one of them works. Maybe one works. But when it works, that one idea that works, oh man, it made it worth it. It was the one. I mean, it came through big time, big time. So that's the mindset that you kind of have to have when you're pursuing entrepreneurship. Don't give up easily. Definitely don't expect a whole lot of support from other people because you're not going to get it because they're just not going to. I mean, you can expect support from other entrepreneurs, but people that are not entrepreneurs, they're not going to see your vision no matter how you try to explain it. Um, and then they're going to have, a lot of people, they've had their own negative experiences with business, and a lot of people like to share that with you. They like to say stuff like, well, I tried that didn't work, or, you know, I remember my mom kept asking me when was I going to get a real job, and I was just kind of like, this is my job. This is so, but check this out. Fortunately, 25 years later, guess what? I take care of my parents, moved them down to Mexico. They got their own condo. They're down here retired. And that's what you got to keep in the forefront of your mind. Don't worry about what people are saying now or what's happening now. Try to envision yourself in the future being successful and reaching the goals that you want to reach.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for fitting this in your schedule. But a couple things real quick before we go.
Sure.
First of all, tell us where to find you on social media. You're a great social media follow, and I've learned a lot just from following you myself. So just tell us where they can find you on social media.
Yes, I am most active on Facebook. That's my favorite platform to use. Find me Dante Lee, Dante, last name Lee. It'll say something about Revenue Doctor as well. And I'm also on
Yeah,
TikTok, but follow me on Facebook. Facebook is best.
yeah, yeah. Now the last thing before we go, like I said, I have all young men in here with me today, and I
Hmm.
know they get sick of me mentioning this, but it cannot be mentioned enough. Why is it so important for us to have more successful black men in our communities?
Wow. Well, I have to be honest with you. As a demographic, as Black men, we are the lowest performing in most categories, even in real estate. Ironically, just recently, I think just last week, I was doing some research. And I found that women real estate agents are way more successful. They're the million-dollar producers in real estate. I'm gonna be honest with you. I have a son and I mentor a couple of kids and I see a lot of this. And maybe this resonates with you. I see a lot of excessive time on video games, playing video games excessively. Uh, I see a lot of excessive TikTok watching, but not content of substance, just these silly videos. As men, we love sports, but you don't need to watch every game. You don't need to watch every football game, every basketball game. Think about that. I mean, the average game lasts about 3 hours. So you spend your weekend watching the college football game, then the NFL football game, and then a couple of basketball games. You just wasted about 16 hours, watching sports. Um, Develop a work now, play later attitude. Work now, get done what needs to get done, and you'll have plenty of time to play later. But yeah, the truth of the matter is, and you guys can research this for yourself, but it's true that Black men as a demographic, we are the least performing in a lot of categories. And listen, if you want to be a rapper, 'cause I know there's some people in your class who want to be a rapper. This is something that I hear is common. I'm not trying to kill your dreams, but have a plan B, have a plan C. I mean, even rappers these days I've seen have gotten smarter about economics and about finance. So a lot of rappers that I'm hearing from and about, they're talking about entrepreneurship. They're talking about buying franchises. They're talking about real estate. They're talking about investing in the stock market. So if you want to be a rapper, that's fine. You want to be an athlete, that's fine. The odds are low though. So be realistic about that and have a plan B, have a plan C.
Absolutely. Well, again, we thank you so much for taking some time for us. Dante Lee, founder of Dante Lee International, the Revenue Doctor PR Genius, all the way from Mexico City, Mexico. We thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Appreciate the invitation. You guys be safe.
See ya.